Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the third session of the CBRL Graduate Network Skills Development Seminar Series. This series are future monthly session led by distinguished professor from universities across the UK and Jordan. Today, session titled Research Method and Collection Data will be presented by Professor Omar Al Ghul from the Department of Antiquity at the University, Yarmouk University. The lecture will offer a brief overview of the research methods in human science and present survey of the main resource of the collecting data in the field archaeology and related fields. Professor Al Ghul is a professor in the Department of Archaeology at Yarmouk University, where he has taught since 1991. He earned his doctorate in ancient Oriental studies from Tübingen University in 1991 and currently serving as chair of the Mahmoud Al Ghul Chair for Arabian Peninsula Studies in Epigraphy. His research interests include Northwest Semitic epigraphy, the Dead Sea Scholars, and the social history of the Jordan and Palestine in the 19th and 20th century. Professor Al Ghul has authored more than 40 academic papers and published 8 edited and translated books. He has also applied leading role in the major research, include serving senior investigator of the Jordanian Dead Sea Scholar project in 2008 until 2010 and 2022, and contribute as research to the long-term project on the Greek pair from the Byzantine Church at Petra, collaboration with the University of Michigan from 1960
1996
to 2030. Please note this session, it will begin record a part of our webinar form. Would like kindly to ask everyone to submit any question you have using in the Q&A box, and Dr. Omar will address this in the end of the session. أي حدا بيقدر يحط سؤاله سواء بالعربي أو بالإنجليزي، والدكتور بيقدر يجاوب على الأسئلة في آخر المحاضرة. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to enjoying the productive seminar. Dr. Omar, the floor is yours. تفضل.
Thank you so much, Rodina. Thank you, CBRL. Thank you, attendants, for being here in this evening. Yes, talking about research methods and collecting data. That's something general. So I was wondering how to tackle this wide topic. As Rodina said, I'm going to talk about human sciences and even to narrow that to archaeology and epigraphy and probably related topics. Of course, I will be giving only examples and main considerations. Research method is a topic that we teach over a whole semester. So what today can be said is only, as said, touching here and there on main topics. So I'll give some considerations, general considerations regarding research methods, something based on my own observations with difficulties students usually have when picking a topic for their MA thesis or term papers. So I'll try to clarify some points in that regard. So one major question would be selecting the research question. If asked by a professor at the university for a term paper, for example, write so and so, what shall I write about? This also, you face this very frequently with students finishing their MA courses and starting to look for a topic to write on for their MA thesis or PhD dissertations. So several topics might occur to your mind. The question is everything worth investigation? Worth investigating? Sometimes in archaeology, the answer is easy. Colleagues working in excavations produce much material, pottery, glass, metals, or even the actual archaeological information like stratigraphy, further questions like internal, external trade, and so on. In this case, the answer is a big yes. Is the question of investigation worth it or not? Of course, it's worth it. This is unpublished material. This is new material that the researcher will be introducing to the colleagues in the field. So you can be sure that spending the time and effort tackling this new material is worth it. So every time you have new material, you are sure that you have something to talk about, to introduce to the scholarly world. That's not always the case. In many other cases, you pick a topic that people already studied somehow. Shall I tackle that anew? The answer depends. Are you going to introduce new information, new knowledge? This is possible in several cases. For example, if someone wrote an MA thesis about churches in Jordan in 1995, you might think, churches in Jordan is a topic that one already wrote about on one side. But if we know that after 1995, so many new churches were discovered, so that our knowledge of churches in Jordan as it was in 1995 is not valid anymore. Just to give a few examples, the very important churches in the baptism site were not known at the time yet. Several churches, probably many of the churches in Rahab were not discovered yet. The Lut cave complex was not known enough, or the churches on Mkawer and so on. So if you think that the new material is worth it, go for it. So not every topic studied is closed for investigation. Sometimes you don't have a new material, but you have a new perspective. Social aspects, for example, were not so much taken into consideration in archaeological studies 30 years ago. So let's take the Ammonites, for example. If any work was written about the Ammonites in 1985, it probably was concerned with the archaeological finds describing the material culture found and so on, but not necessarily social context. Ideas about interconnection between archaeological sites in the same area. So landscape archaeology and so on. If you think that addressing that same topic from a new perspective with new research methods, new research concepts would bring a new knowledge to the field, go for it. It's actually not only allowable, it is desired that we use new research methods, new perspective, especially that perspective that involve more anthropological, social anthropological, and even physical anthropological work would be useful. Also, of course, in the 80s, CRM, archaeometry were not used. So topics dealt with at the time can be restudied now 30, 40 years later. Of course, how much effort, how much time, I'll get back to that. I'll put into my research depends on what I'm doing, what I'm requested to do. Is it a term paper, something that is to be finished within 4 weeks, for example? Is it an MA thesis? Is it a PhD dissertation? The answer to this will decide how much data collecting, how much research methods will be taken into consideration. One very important question in archaeology: is the material I intend to study available? Say I want to compare the pottery found in site A with the pottery found in site B, because I think I can prove something about external or internal trade or so. The question is, do I have access to the material from site B? Assuming, for example, that site B is Tel Hisban. In Tel Hisban, several Western universities are working since several decades, and professors there might very well think of giving their MA, their graduate students, some of that material to study. So in this case, the material I would like to study is not available for my study. It is dedicated to someone else. So before deciding what to investigate, what to study, you have to make sure that you have access to the material. This applies, for example, for numismatics. Sometimes such material is preserved is kept at museums, but for several administrative or legal reasons, they are not accessible for study. So you know the material is there, you know it's worth investigating, but you need the permission, for example, of the Department of Antiquities of Jordan. For some reason, beside the fact that these might be reserved for a colleague or so, you might not have access to this material. So especially by MA thesis, before deciding to tackle this material, to study this material, make sure you have access to it. Sometimes you have access to the material, you don't have access to the information. Preliminary internal excavation reports, the reports that archaeologists write to the Department of Antiquities after they finish their excavation seasons. They deliver these reports to the department. The department keeps them to itself. They are not public. You have to have special permission to have access to them. Sometimes for different reasons, this permission is not given. So you have to check before you start if all needed information is available. Copyright issues in various on various levels, photos, publications, and so on. I don't want to include with in this what is usually considered a barrier, and that is languages. The fact that literature on the topic might be written in English, German, French, Italian, or whatever, should not be considered as a barrier, especially now with the help of Google Translator and so on. So language is not one of these obstacles. I'm talking mainly about legal and sometimes logistic barriers. Imagine, for example, that you want to compare material from Northern Jordan with material kept at the Damascus Museum. Under the circumstances, since 2-3 years, unfortunately, God knows how long still, nobody would probably be able to go into the storerooms of Damascus Museum to check material there. So the material is there. Probably nobody would object that you check the material, but for practical reasons, this is not possible. This applies especially for PhD studies. So check fast, then go for it. This also is related the feasibility of the project, time. As said, term paper is a question of weeks. MA is question from, don't quote me on that, 1 year, probably more. So time, how much time can you invest in the project? Don't pick too much material. Don't intend to study a huge amount of artifacts. If you think that you don't have enough time because the topic you selected, the question you are trying to answer, is too demanding, change the title. For example, if you are talking about comparing the تل العميري pottery from the Iron Age with the pottery of Tel Jawa, for example, in the Iron Age, if you think this is too much, try comparing the Iron Age 1 pottery. Try to compare the Iron Age 2B, for example, and so on. So if you think that after some investigation that the material is too much, regarding time, for example, change the topic, narrow the title, narrow the scope of the research you are intending to do. Same applies to logistics. Some work can be done at the library. Some work needs to field work. Field work can be done with simple tools. Sometimes you need something more complicated. You need equipment. You need buses, cars, and so on. You need drones. So sometimes these resources are not available for, they are definitely not available for a term paper. They might be available for a MA thesis or not. This is related to the last point, the financial resources. How much money do you have? How much money is allocated for this project? What are the who are the financing bodies? If you think it is essential now to have images for the site, for example, taking with a drone, I don't have exact numbers, but I think you should account for at least 500 JDs daily for drone images. If you don't have the money, probably you have to rethink your project and select another project that does not need such equipment, or, as said before, to narrow the investigation question so that it would exclude the need for such equipment. So these are the considerations that I realize many students face when picking a topic. And when you realize, when students actually realize after getting the MA thesis proposal approved, and they start working on the thesis, they realize it's too big, it's too large, it's too costly, it will take forever. I don't have this, I don't have that. I think a more careful consideration of the investigation question would spare the students time and effort and depression before when starting a project without enough consideration of all aspects. I move from here to collecting data. In archaeology, we have this probably in this unusual situation. Probably in other fields, people would laugh at us. I just came back from Germany, and someone was telling me that in some field of engineering, they don't print research papers because in certain fields there are new results every six months. So after 6 months, the information you had is outdated. You don't need it anymore. Sometimes when colleagues at the university, at the Council for Research at the university, look at our proposals, they are puzzled because they see that we are using books that were printed 100 years ago. They can't believe that. Yani, how come something that was said 100 years ago is still valid? This will be one of the things that I will discuss here. So when talking about sources, we talk about two types of sources, especially in archaeology, epigraphy, and other studies, history, even anthropology. We differentiate between primary resources and secondary resources. Primary resources are those resources which contain information gathered usually from the field and presented for the first time. This information is usually very valuable because it describes the situation that we are concerned with as it was first observed by the investigators. This book, I'm showing the cover of the Survey of Eastern Palestine, sorry, that was written by Condor, is a book from the 19th century, as you see, 1898. This was one of the very early attempts at archaeologically describing Jordan. It is something like 40 years earlier than the book of Nelson Gluck that surveyed the so-called Eastern Palestine, that is Jordan. The information found here is authentic, is original, is important for our understanding today. In these books, this book and the book of Nelson Gluck, you find information, you find description of sites that don't exist anymore, or don't exist anymore in their in the form they were documented 100 years or 140 years ago. This information is still valid. We can use it today, along, by the way, with the indirect information about the social, economic situation in Jordan at that time. Of course, we should be aware that later surveys took place also. We take them into consideration, but such a source, not because it's old, but because the information included in it is original, is authentic. It was described firsthand or recorded firsthand by the authors. This applies, for example, for these, I think, 5 volumes, The Excavation of Gazer by McAllister and Duncan. The excavations took place at the beginning of the 19th century. The books include photos, drawings, description of archaeological context. Much of the material that was found cannot be located today, and so on. Now, a very important methodical observation. It is well known that at that time, as McAllister was excavating Gazer, that excavation methods were not established yet. So the archaeology of McAllister would not make it in a class of archaeology today if he used the same methods. Yet he found that material, he presented the material found there to us. So if we are going to talk about finds from that period, from that site, although it is now some 110 years ago, we still consider these reports in 5 volumes essential for our studies. This is part of the primary sources. Now, at the end of my talk, I'll be talking about something related to this, but I want to make the point here. Going back to these resources, seeing these books, seeing the way excavations were and how people wrote about them, helps you as an emerging scholar to understand the development of your field, of the academic field of archaeology. You can make first-hand experience. You can touch for yourself the development, the changes, the methods that were used, and so on. So although much of what is in these books is not gold anymore, but yet it was there. It was one step in this field, and it's important, I think, when you want to be an archaeologist, is somehow to be aware of the history of the field of archaeology through such sources. Moving to another example of primary sources, epigraphy. This is the cover of one of the books in which the Dead Sea Scrolls were published. The Dead Sea Scrolls were published in some 42 volumes of this series, discovering in the Judean desert. This is volume 32. The material published here, the text published here, were published here for the first time. Photos, drawings, transliteration, translation, commentary. The first time all Dead Sea Scrolls were published, were being presented to the public, to the academics, was in this series. Since then, many studies, as I will show you, were published. About 80,000 articles are published about the Dead Sea Scrolls, yet the original publications still hold their place as a reference for the material. Not all primary studies are big volumes reporting about huge excavations. Here we have in 1963 a short article by Reed and Winnett, a fragment of an early Moabite inscription from Kerak, published in the annual of the in the Bulletin of the American Schools of Oriental Research, PACER. So it's a few pages article, yet it speaks about the so-called Moabite Kerak inscription, and this is the first application. So describing the find circumstances, a photo, a drawing, reading, translation, commentary are all here. Many studies were done afterwards, but the original piece of knowledge that describe the find is within these few pages, and in some cases, the treatment, not in this case, but generally speaking, sometimes the treatment in the original publication is not beyond questioning. So I'm not speaking necessarily about quality, but I'm speaking about being original, including the basic information you always would need to know about the discovered objects. So by that, we move to the secondary resources. We are talking about the studies that took place about the found material after it was found. As I said, we have some 80,000 articles about the Dead Sea Scrolls. This is, for example, one of these articles published in the journal Discoveries, Dead Sea Scrolls Discoveries. It's about scrolls that were found in Cave 4 and other caves. It tackles the topic of wisdom. So the author, Joseph, picks information from here and there from different Dead Sea Scrolls and discusses the issue of wisdom. This depends directly on the primary sources, but it produces new knowledge, new information. I have to use this and that, and I have to be aware of both. I have to know when using the secondary sources, I have to be aware of the primary sources used just to make sure that he's making the right citations, that he's making the right reference, that he's understanding correctly the original commentary that was made in the primary source. Another example is this famous article actually by Siegfried Horn about the Amman Citadel inscription. The Amman Citadel inscription was was firstly published by Rafiq Dejani, but after that, many people wrote about the inscription because it's important, because we don't have enough Ammonite inscriptions. So the study of Horn is a classic. It's a secondary source. Horn here must not necessarily talk about fine circumstances, about a drawing, photo, and so on. He might tackle certain topics, linguistic, something about the script, something about the date, something about the content of the inscription. He does not here repeat what was in the primary source. So, but yet I still need this and that in order to put together information about the Amman Citadel inscriptions. I'm now going to give concrete examples, of course, about monographs and journals that we use in the field. Speaking of journals and of primary sources, I have to underscore the annual of the Departments of Antiquities of Jordan, the so-called adage. Basically, all fieldwork conducted in Jordan by local and foreign expeditions is being reported here. So this journal is full with primary information. And that's the positive side. On the other hand, much of what is being said here is has the character is more temporary. The investigation is not fully conducted. No comparisons. It is mostly descriptive, but yet it tells what happened, when it did happen, what were the main finds, and the adage has the advantage of being regularly published since the early 50s until today, and it's online. So you can consult it always. It is published in English with few Arabic articles. The other two journals, Bulletin of the American Schools of Oriental Research is more than 100 years old now. It contains both primary information primary talking about artifacts published for the first time, and of course secondary studies. In the field of the Arabian Peninsula, especially epigraphy, we have Arabian archaeology and epigraphy. Here again, much of the material is primary material. But again, what I said before, you are requested as a scholar, as emerging scholar, to know your material. To go, I would recommend, you can consider this as making publicity for Eco Library. I would suggest go to the library, go to the journal room, go by the journals one by one, see what they are, where they are published, what are the topics published in them, who are publishing, and so on. This would help you know your tools better. So, as said, I'm giving only examples here. There are journals in many journals in many different aspects of the Middle Eastern history and culture. We have almost now probably 140 years old, the Palestine Exploration Quarterly. Again, primary material, secondary material, the French Syria, that's the same, and the German Zeitschrift des Deutschen Palästina-Vereins. All these are the product of, I would say, the remains of colonial history in our region, the British, the French, and the Germans, and the Americans. And of course, their engagement in studying our cultural heritage. But of course, the articles published in them, mainly in English, are the product of Arab and foreign scholars. Unfortunately, not always, but at least in certain cases, we have final publications of excavations reports. As said, in Adaj, for example, and in other places, you find preliminary reports. Here, these, for example, the excavation reports from Bab al-Zra and from Hisban and from Tel Ameri. These are exemplary, tell you the end of the story about what was found there, stratigraphy, small finds, pottery, this and that. A remarkable work, and is, of course, all primary sources that each library concerned with archaeology and history of Jordan should have. One other aspect, one other source, important source, primary source, is the MA thesis and PhD dissertations written on the cultural heritage of Jordan. This is one example of a MA thesis defended recently at Yarmouk University about new Safaitic inscriptions. The material is new. Now, what you should know, that you have access, as I will show you afterwards, you have access to all these materials through your university library catalog if you are in Jordan. All public universities, the 10 public universities of Jordan, share the same platform. So if you are wondering which MA theses were written in which topic, you can check that through the unified catalog of Jordanian universities. One other material, this is now دعاية وإعلان. This book, as probably some of you at least are aware of, was launched a few days ago. The Story of the Land of Jordan by Zaidan Kafafi, From Prehistory to the Persians. You can use such books to make some sort of a shortcut when looking for literature, because this book was published 2025. It is a comprehensive book. You wouldn't find in this book only fresh, new information, but also expanded bibliographies. That is, if you want to tackle a topic on the late Bronze Age, you can use this book and check the bibliography there, and you probably will find enough resources, primary resources and secondary resources that were used by the author to write his chapter on that period. This would be a good start. And again, you should know your field and your material and your authors. I'm making this recommendation today. I probably would hesitate a little bit to make the same recommendation in 3 years' time, because this book would not, by that time, be totally up to date. And in 10 years' time, I would probably hesitate to recommend this book to you. So you have to be aware what is new, what is being published, who's publishing, so that you know where to find the information you are looking for. Databanks. The easiest answer, the best answer, the quickest answer is JSTOR. JSTOR is accessible, partly open access. It is at Acre at any rate. It has tens of thousands of articles on cultural heritage of our region. Much of that material is downloadable for free. You have to go there, and it offers several options for search and advanced search. So you can search by author, by title, by date, ascending, descending, and so on, by relevance. So you see here in this example, I searched for Kafafi and got 682 results sorted by relevance. That is, the first article would be very relevant to my search, Kafafi. The last article would probably touch upon Kafafi only slightly, but yet you have that whole material. And the important development that took place in the last years is that JSTOR does not offer electronic copies of journal articles only, but offers also electronic books, including those from Brill in Leiden. As some of you might know, Brill in Leiden is one of the most important publishers worldwide in the field of material culture of the ancient East. So open access books by Brill are also included in JSTOR. Go there, use it. It would bring you much information and help you really judge the amount information there is in the field about a certain topic, probably about the topic you want to write about, and then probably would help you decide to write about it, to make a modification, as said, to choose another perspective, methodical perspective, to tackle an already tackled topic. All of this you can learn from after browsing a database platform like JSTOR. Just that you know, يعني, probably many of you are students at Jordanian universities, but even if you are a student in any other university, every university today has electronic databases, electronic platforms. These are screenshots from the Yarmouk University library in Irbid. And you see you have Scopus, you have Springer, you have something, you have Cambridge Core, you have books, in this case, on chemistry, on statistics, and so on. Engineering, IEEE, but you have ProQuest, you have Oxford University Press, EBSCO, eBook Central. All of that is available for every student as at a university, Jordanian university, including some Arabic platforms. All of this is available. It's for free. It's downloadable. And as said, it's free or accessible for students at the 10 governmental universities in Jordan. Something comparable is definitely available in all university. I came back a few days ago from Germany. I worked for a month at the so-called Orient House at the German Archaeological Institute. This is a screenshot of their library page. They have also their paper resources, but also many electronic resources, including JSTOR. So I just wanted to give the example to tell for those among the audience who are not in Jordan, just to confirm my point that you have such resources practically everywhere. Something new, that new in the sense of last 10 years, because sometimes you don't find what you are looking for. The simple trick, Google the author. Google the author. Many authors today, as myself, for example, upload their academic work on platforms like academia.edu or ResearchGate. So I wrote some years ago an article with a title, The Arabic Toponyms and Oikonyms in 17. As you see, it is downloadable. It's something I wrote, I think, 25 years ago. And there you have it. The original source might be not so accessible to you, but through me, it is there. It is for free. So everything I wrote, almost everything, the research papers are here at academia, at my page on academia.edu. And I know of many scholars who do that. One was complaining about a colleague who puts his articles on academia.edu the moment he submits them for publication, even before they are published. They are available on academia.edu. The same applies for platforms like ResearchGate. Here are, for example, 2 articles of mine that are uploaded on ResearchGate, and they are downloadable. The ResearchGate gives a short description of the articles to help you decide whether you want the article or not. One open resource that I would not oversee, I would recommend, is Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. I'm saying this, stressing this, because probably not among the younger generation, but as Wikipedia was launched probably 25 years ago, many people were very skeptic. Yani, who writes that? How would I know that it is reliable and so on? Well, my point is things do not get reliable simply because they are printed. There is also nonsense printed. So not everything electronic is superficial. Not everything printed is deep and sophisticated. With the time, Wikipedia got better and better, especially the English Wikipedia. I was someone who tried his best with his students to improve the Arabic Wikipedia. I would like always to give the example of this article, the article in Wikipedia on Constantine the Great on the English Wikipedia, where if you go to the article, it's a lengthy article. It has 350 footnotes. So I'm not the expert on the Constantine the Great, but I wouldn't put the article on Constantine the Great on Wikipedia on a lower level than the similar article on this person in the Encyclopedia Britannica. Obviously, experts, people who know their material, who are thorough, who are concerned with the details, wrote this article. And as you probably know, in Wikipedia, it might be that over the years, several people contributed to writing, editing, correcting, updating this article. But generally speaking, I would not hesitate checking Wikipedia. And in Wikipedia, as in almost any other source, you will find excellent material, less excellent material, and probably material that is questionable. But it's the source is there. It's your duty to check the knowledge in that resource and to see whether you can use it or not. This applies for Wikipedia, but applies, of course, for Google in general or other search engine that provide information. With other words, the internet in general. Now, we come to the serious thing, because what you don't know about me is that I can read minds. So I know that not few of you were thinking since I started talking, what is this about primary resources and secondary resources, monograph and journals? I can get the answer within few seconds by asking ChatGPT. So why do I need all of that? Interesting. I would like to make two observations here. The one I repeatedly mentioned is that working on sources of knowledge has the duty, among other things, to establish your scholarly character, to make you a scholar who knows his material, his sources, their nature, their backgrounds, their motivations, everything that has to do with their being there that led to the formation of the field of archaeology or epigraphy or anthropology or history in general. If you use ChatGPT, and ChatGPT uses information available on the internet, taken from the reports of Ameri, from Hisban, from Gazer, you would have that information. But you wouldn't know how come we know all of this. So you will not own that information. You will, it's information that produced by, can't say someone else, by something else. It is about teaching young emerging scholars how to fish and not to give them fish to eat. So ChatGPT is giving ready-made dishes. We need scholars to know where the information comes from, how can it be processed, and so on. This leads me to the next, I guess, very important point. ChatGPT forms a challenge to us in the field of Eastern archaeology. The field, please pay attention to this point. The field of archaeology in our region was established and advanced by Western scholars. Western scholars who had and have certain ideological frameworks. They have their own beliefs. They have their own understanding of the society, of religion and relationships, and so on. Through that eye, they did their studies. Now, when you are asking ChatGPT, ChatGPT is going back to these resources, producing, I'm talking about generative AI, not AI that puts information together, talking about AI that produces new knowledge from already available knowledge. Now, if the already available knowledge is ideologically, I would even dare say corrupted, what would be the end product of ChatGPT or AI in general? For years, people like me have been talking about decolonizing the archaeological discourse. Try to understand our heritage from a neutral, local point of view. Now, if you ask ChatGPT, you would know everything ChatGPT knows and thinks he knows. So far, it is not that bad. And that is the circumstances. You don't present me with that as your term paper or as your MA thesis. That you read that, understand that critically, understand it, and realize what is knowledge and what is ideology in that. If you take it from ChatGPT, put your name on it and give it to me, then you are reproducing the ideological colonial history of archaeology in this region. And that is definitely not the sense of teaching and studying archaeology in our region. We should produce our own local understanding of archaeology. And with AI, it's getting harder and harder, because it's not like before that I draw your attention in the classroom to the contribution of ideology and religion and Eurocentrism in the works of Western scholars. It is now becoming your contribution, because you ask the questions, you ask the ChatGPT or AI, you got the answers. Many students think this is an excellent piece of paper. It took me no time. I didn't go all through that cram of primary resources, secondary resources, JSTOR, databases, journals, and so on. I got something that I wouldn't have done in weeks. It's nicely written. It's in good English, correct English. I present it. That's not the sense of things. First, I want to see your own character, your own personality in your research. Then I would like to see research based on objective, neutral, local understanding of cultural heritage. Thank you so much.